this is where we get into, I want you to really understand this slide right here, because this slide, many of you are probably doing these things, and I want to make sure that if you are, that you have an idea of what to do to counteract it. So the first thing is, if you're taking medications that deplete CoQ10, these are the different classes of medicines that we know can deplete CoQ10. And I think it's important for you to understand that, because many of you are on medications, again, that deplete this very important nutrient. And here's the thing, these medicines can deplete CoQ10, but none of them deplete CoQ10 overnight. So think of this as more of it's a slow, progressive issue. It doesn't happen overnight. It's slow and it's progressive. So you don't start on a statin and then like 2 days later you have massive CoQ10 deficiency, or blood pressure, or diabetic medications, or antidepressants. This is, again, it's slow and progressive. I see people, sometimes they'll come to see me, they've been on statins for 5 years and they didn't start developing muscle pain and neuropathy until 3 to 4 years in. So again, you can be on a drug and never suspect the drug. Why? Because the drug depletes the nutrient, the CoQ10. It can do it very, very slowly and progressively over time. So a lot of times when doctors are looking for side effects, patient takes a drug and generally they'll report side effects if they're immediate. But if the side effects are slow, progressive, long-term side effects, they generally don't get reported. They tend to get missed, because by the time a person's used to taking the medication, they're not thinking that the medication has been slowly poisoning their mitochondria by depleting their CoQ10 levels. So statins, probably the most well-studied and notorious. And so, for example, like Zocor and Lipitor are two drugs that are common. Crestor is another statin. But these types of medications that lower your cholesterol, we absolutely know beyond the shadow of a doubt, these are called HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors. They block the synthesis. They basically inhibit your body's ability to synthesize CoQ10. And so that creates a lot of problems, because CoQ10 is related to so many important functions in the body. We know that blood pressure medication, so let me give you some examples here. If you're on an ACE inhibitor, if you're on a thiazide diuretic, something like hydrochlorothiazide or HCT, if you're on a drug like lisinopril, if you're on a calcium channel blocker, these blood pressure lowering medications are known to over time deplete CoQ10, okay? If you're on a diabetic medication, particularly the most common one for diabetes is metformin, but there are other diabetic medications that also deplete CoQ10. This is just the most well-known and the most commonly prescribed. This metformin will also block vitamin B12 and folate, just side note, but also CoQ10. And so let's think, I'm coming to it now. So let's say you've been to your doctor, you've been to your cardiologist, right? They prescribed you a statin. A couple of years go by, your blood pressure starts to go up. Remember what I said earlier, that statins, what do? They cause a lowering of cholesterol. They cause a lowering of CoQ10. CoQ10 deficiency causes your blood pressure to go up. So this is a very common pattern, which is why I'm sharing it with you. This is the most common. This one gets prescribed first, okay? And then over time, CoQ10 deficiency, person starts to develop high blood pressure. Now we come back. Then the doctor wants to prescribe medicine, okay, after time, that lowers blood pressure too, right? So we have this trap, right, where we get the statins. The statins actually drop the blood or increase the blood pressure. So then the doctor adds a medication. He adds a blood pressure lowering medication. But guess what? The blood pressure lowering medication also depletes CoQ10. And so we have this feedback loop, right? And so oftentimes what happens next is the doctor adds new medicine, new blood pressure. So maybe you start with one BP med, blood pressure lowering med, but then it's not working quite the way you wanted it to. And one of the reasons why that can happen again is you're hammering your CoQ10 store. you're hammering your body's ability to produce it, and you're depleting it from your tissues. And so over time, this CoQ10 deficiency can progress and get worse, leading to, again, the symptoms or the disease states associated with CoQ10 deficiency. Again, statins, then blood pressure medications. And then oftentimes, in this scenario too, with high blood pressure and with statin use, we start to develop pain syndromes. And so, as I said earlier, we're not exercising. So guess what? Our blood sugar starts to go up, and now the doctor wants to put us on diabetic medication. In this case, we're using this metformin as the example. Metformin also causes CoQ10 deficiency. Okay, so here the doctor sat out with the intention to reduce your risk of heart disease, right? Again, not to stop heart disease from happening, not to stop a heart attack or stroke, but to reduce your risk, okay? And in doing so, in reducing your risk, created a new problem that then medicated, that reinforced the original problem, okay? And then reinforced a pain syndrome that led to inactivity, that increased the risk for developing diabetes, and then wants to put you on another medication to control your blood sugar. Instead of the best medication in the world to control your blood sugar is food and exercise. But doctors love to use chemical manipulations instead of giving common sense advice. And so now you're on 3 different medicines to protect your heart, okay, that actually all 3 of them create CoQ10 deficit, which doesn't protect your heart at all in the long run. But in the process of not protecting your heart, now you're tired all the time. And you're tired and you can't exercise because you hurt. And so then we get depressed, because that's kind of a sad deal, right? When you're used to your life, you're used to being able to do and run and have fun and have energy. And now, ever since this pattern, right, now you're tired all the time, and you've lost who you were as a person, and that weighs on you emotionally, and it weighs on your heart heavily. So now you're depressed. So now the doctor wants to give you antidepressants, which further deplete your CoQ10 even more, okay? And that's not good either. And oftentimes, we add this one on the bottom here, this blood thinner, because blood thinners can deplete CoQ10. Now, some doctors will tell you if you're on a blood thinner not to take CoQ10 because the CoQ10 could interfere with your blood thinner. I would tend to lean on the other side of that, which is, why do you need to thin your blood? Why is your blood thick? Not what can we do to make it, not what poison can we give you to make it thinner, but why is it thick in the first place? And one of the reasons that blood gets thick is blood sugar goes up. So diabetes increases blood viscosity, which increases the need for blood thinners and increases the risk for heart disease and heart attack. So again, we started out this whole process trying to reduce the risk for heart disease. We ended up recreating such a severity of CoQ10 deficiency that now all these other medications become necessary. And now you don't know what to do, because all of your doctors are telling you if you get off your statin, you're going to have a heart attack, and they're all scaring the heck out of you, and you're falling for that line. Again, you have to be aware that these medications are slow poisons, because CoQ10 is an essential chemical that your body absolutely needs. It's a rate-limiting step for energy production. Remember, energy equals ATP equals your body's money. It's your source of revenue. It'd kind of be like if your boss kept giving you demotions year after year, instead of giving you pay raises, actually took away money from you. And so you made less and less as the years gone by. And so inflation's happening. And so the value of your dollar isn't as good as it was 5 years ago. But instead of you getting raises to match the inflation, you're getting paid deductions. It's a kind of the same scenario here. Is each time you add a medication, you're getting basically a biochemical pay reduction for your body to be able to properly function. Then you add in what most people have problems with, is that they eat so poorly that they have gastro symptoms, whether it's bloating or gas or irritable bowel or reflux. A lot of them will pop Tums or Rolaids or other antacids like Prilosec or Tagamet, whether it's a PPI or whether it's an H2 antagonist. Those classes of medications also deplete CoQ10. And so you're left. Think of it like this: you're left biochemically penniless, right? You're no longer a prince, you're a pauper in terms of your biochemistry, all because you didn't take care of what you needed to. Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.